Welcome back. This is News and Views on Salam Media. We cross over to Beirut in Lebanon, of course, and we're going to be talking with Robert Carter. He is a journalist with Five Pillars in the UK, but currently in Beirut covering this incursion by the occupiers, and that, of course, is Israel. They're not even done yet with the Holocaust in Palestine, and their tentacles are now obviously in Lebanon. This, of course, shortly after the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah. But we're going to be concentrating, of course, on what exactly is happening in Beirut and in Lebanon. Last week, we spoke with Africa Muslims Agency, and they were trying to get people housed in school halls, etc., trying to create safety for the people on the border of Israel and Lebanon. We'll also hear what does the situation look like on the border currently. Robert Carter, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program. Nice having you on the show this morning.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Okay, under very, very horrendous conditions and situations, of course. I would like to have spoken to you about other matters, but yeah, here we are talking about the genocide or the Holocaust in Palestine, which is still ongoing. And now the tentacles of the illegal occupiers has reached into Lebanon. What is the situation like currently there?
Well, Lebanon is in a very tense situation. People don't really know what's going to come next. Obviously, the killing of senior members of Hezbollah has created a lot of anxiety and chaos here, and a lot of fear. Hassan Nasrallah, of course, a very well-known, well-established, important figure here locally. Just to clarify, Hezbollah is, of course, a designated organization in countries like where I'm from, the UK. It's considered a terrorist organization. But here in Lebanon, the locals, mostly Shia Muslim, but even some Christians as well, and other groups, they have relied on Hezbollah to, in their mind, protect them from Israeli aggression for years, for decades, in fact. And of course, his loss has come as a great shock to his supporters, who are now venting. They're venting, they're mourning, they're also very, very angry. And this has created a lot of tension in Beirut on the street level. Businesses have all closed for the past 2 days, and people of other denominations, other groups, other religious groups who perhaps are not so closely aligned to the group Hezbollah have kind of gone into hiding. They're concerned about sectarian tensions that might erupt, and how the supporters of the group may act now that they're incredibly angry and distressed. Obviously, Israel is still attacking Lebanon. There was a hit on Beirut last night, a major hit in an area called Kola, which has just up the road from where I am, to be honest with you. I heard the strike. I saw some of the aftermath of it. It's claimed at least 3 or 4 people so far. And obviously, as time goes on, more and more casualties may be added to that list. The strike was, according to reports, targeting a group called the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. So Israel is not just targeting one group, it's now targeting several. And quite frankly, what I can tell you as a matter of fact is that innocent civilians are being killed in this situation. This is not an Israeli war on Hezbollah only. Israel is killing innocent civilians here, and there is, depending on where you take your figures from, up to 1 million people displaced all across the country, not just in the south, not just in the southern suburbs of Beirut, where it's mostly Shia. It's all over the country. Christian and some Sunni areas have been hit as well. So the crimes that Israel is famous for, murdering civilians, murdering children, massacres, is happening in Lebanon. And unfortunately, it could escalate if 2 things: Israel invades the south, or if the Iran and their allies in the region decide that they want to escalate and launch a massive retaliatory response after Hassan Nasrallah's killing.
Okay, gosh, there's so many questions around that particular situation. Um, and of course, you spoke about Israel targeting innocent civilians, which is exactly their modus operandi. It was exactly their modus operandi in Palestine. So they will probably carry on totally unabated. Let's look at the response from the Lebanese government, the Lebanese army, and health authorities regarding these attacks.
Well, there is an effort being made by the authorities here. Their focus is mostly on condemning the aggression, condemning Israel for what it's doing, and also trying to help the displaced people in Lebanon. But it's a very complicated political structure here in Lebanon, as you may be aware of. It's incredibly sectarian. It's designed to be sectarian. Lebanon was essentially the child of Western imperialist colonialist rule over the Arab world. It was meant to be a Christian enclave in a Muslim majority region. But of course, there are so many groups that have been active here. There was a massive civil war which lasted for many, many years, very bloody, and that was never really resolved. So unfortunately, nothing works in Lebanon. That's what it's famous for. It's nothing working. There are blocks and obstacles everywhere. So the country's struggling to deal with this mass displacement issue, trying to put families into schools as makeshift camps to take care of them, makeshift centers. But unfortunately, some areas in Christian areas are rejecting this call from the government because they don't want Muslims settling into their areas and perhaps staying for good. There's also been some fist fights in the streets between rival communities. So it's a very, very tense atmosphere. The Lebanese army is kind of on standby. It's on high alert. It's trying to maintain security. And of course, the Lebanese army has less capabilities, less fighting ability than the Hezbollah group, which is known to have been better funded, better supported, better provided for by Iran over the years. And the Lebanese army doesn't have access to all areas, like areas in the south, which of course are under Hezbollah control. So it's very tricky. Depending on where you go, you get different sort of resources available to you. But let me remind our dear viewers that it's not just the Lebanese who are suffering in this country, but also Syrian refugees, Palestinian refugees who have been here for generations. The Lebanese authorities are only prioritizing people of Lebanese nationality. They're turning away refugees, they're turning away Syrians, they're turning away Palestinians because they simply don't have the capability to cater for all of these people. There are millions of Syrians and Palestinians trapped in Lebanon, to be honest with you. They're on the streets, they're in refugee camps, they don't have anywhere else to go, they can't afford to go anywhere in many cases, they're on the streets. Beirut right now is full of cars everywhere. There is no parking spaces because people are sleeping in those cars, or they fled to the capital to get away from the violence, but now the capital is under attack. So where do these people go now? And there are families on the streets, just sleeping on the streets rough. They have nowhere else to go. It's a very, very difficult situation, and the invasion hasn't even happened yet. If it does, I don't know what's going to happen, but people are going to be running in all directions, possibly to Syria.
I should imagine a massacre of unimaginable proportions. And what comes to mind as you're speaking is Sabra and Shatila as well. But let's go for an ad break, Robert. We're going to be back with you in a minute or two. Please do stand by for us.
With Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Are you ready to ignite a wave of compassion and make a lasting impact? This Rabiul Awal, let's come together for something truly meaningful. Join Penny Appeal South Africa's Rabiul Awal campaign. Build a water well, Provide a hot meal, sponsor a food garden, or plant an olive tree in Palestine or fruit tree in South Africa. Make a difference today. Visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Your giving, their dawn of hope.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Masjid Ibadur Rahman, in conjunction with Khuddam al-Quran, presents a South African Kira tour by world-renowned Sheikh Taha Nomani from Egypt. First time in South Africa, Friday, 25th October 2024. From Maghrib to Isha, Sheikh Taha Nomani at Masjid Ibadur Rahman, 13 Chase Street, Uitenhage. Be there.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Get ready for the Palestine Solidarity Alliance 15th Annual Mass March for Freedom. 6 October, Rose Park, Lenasia. Tickets and t-shirts are on sale every weekend at Frontline Hyper Lenasia. Support a variety of pop-ups and be a part of a community dialogue with prominent guest speakers while receiving feedback on the various solidarity events. For more information, simply call 083-258-2786. Don't miss the Palestine Solidarity Alliance 15th Annual Mass March for Freedom, 6 October, Rose Park, Lenasia.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. It's exactly 8:28 a.m. South African time. We are in Beirut, or rather, we've crossed over in Beirut, and we're talking to a UK-based journalist. He is, of course, Robert Carter. He's in Beirut currently covering the situation in Beirut, and he, of course, is a journalist with 5 pillars. Welcome back, Robert. And, of course, I mentioned Sabra and Shatila a little while ago. I suppose this comes to mind with a lot of people regarding that situation and the current situation playing out right now in Lebanon.
Yes, absolutely. So Lebanon is familiar with Israeli aggression. It's dealt with it for decades, ever since 1948, in fact, when the Israelis massacred and committed the Nakba to the Palestinians. Lebanon was forced to share a border with this disgusting child-killing regime. And has had to deal with the consequences of that. They've been invaded before. Israel has invaded and occupied Lebanon, and actually went as far as Beirut, where we are now, and launched a horrific siege of the city in order to uproot Palestinian fighters there under Yasser Arafat at the time, the PLO. And since then, Israel has regularly breached Lebanese airspace, has attacked Lebanon, has killed civilians, has conducted terrorism on the border, terrorism on civilian populations. Right now, there is a state of terror in the hearts of the Lebanese civilians. Here in Beirut, there is a drone hovering continuously 24/7 over the capital. You can't see it, but you can constantly hear it. There is the humming of the engines, the motors of the drone. You can constantly hear it. It's a constant reminder that we're here, we're watching you, we can hit you anytime we want, and we will kill anyone we want. There is occasionally sonic booms from Israeli jets, low-flying Israeli jets that will occur. Again, this is a reminder. Was that an explosion? Are we under attack? Was it a sonic boom? We don't know. So Israel likes to tease the civilian population here, keep them in stress, keep them in a state of terror. And that's the least amount of terrorism that people are facing in this country from the Israeli regime. I'm going to try to see if you can catch this on camera. Yep. This is a family that was slaughtered by Israel. Ali Fawaz is the gentleman's name, the father. The family has reportedly been massacred this morning, or at least recently, by the Israeli regime. These are not Hezbollah fighters. These are not terrorists. These are civilians. These are human beings. How dare the West normalize this disgusting action? Are these people not deserving of life? Are their faces going to be on Western mainstream media? Will anyone remember their names outside of Lebanon? No. The fact is that if this was happening in reverse, if these were Ukrainians or blue-eyed, blonde-haired Europeans being killed, they would at least have their story reported. But unfortunately, they won't, because they're Arab, because they're Muslim, because they're from the Middle East, because they are in the way of Israeli expansion and colonialism. This is a disgusting display. This is a disgusting situation. And quite frankly, I heavily condemn the Western world for allowing this situation to continue. And even now, with all of the criticism, all of the accusations of war crimes, with all of the accusations of genocide being done in Gaza, Netanyahu, this disgusting individual, has found a way to divert attention away from that. So now Western media isn't really talking about Gaza anymore. Whilst they're talking about the war with the prescribed terror group Hezbollah, civilians in Gaza and Lebanon are being massacred. So it's a very heartbreaking situation, and that's why it's important for us to keep reporting on this and to document Israeli crimes, because they are vast and there are many examples.
And I hope that we're going to be having ongoing discussions with you, for as long as you are doing the coverage in Beirut. But of course, you need to keep safe as well, because we do know, very sadly, that journalists are soft targets as well. Earlier on, you spoke about the drones hovering overhead. That's another method of psychological warfare from the illegal occupiers. We spoke about Sabra, we spoke about Shatila. And it just boggles the mind that despite all of this happening, it indicates to us very, very clearly that Black and brown lives do not matter as far as the Western world is concerned. But having said that, Robert, how have you heard or seen Israeli citizens reacting to their government's actions especially in light of the protests you have covered. And we also know, let me go on to make this disclaimer, not all Jewish people are Zionists, not all of them are murderers. A lot of them are human beings, just ordinary people like you and I, who have a sense of humanity about us.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I do a lot of reporting in London of the pro-Palestine movement there, and I have been over the past 11 months. And there's been loads of Jewish members of the pro-Palestine movement coming out into the streets of London every single week, calling for an end to the violence. And I'm talking about secular Jewish activists, but also religious, ultra-Orthodox Jewish activists. So no, Zionism is a disgusting political ideology responsible for the massacre of innocent people in Palestine, Lebanon, and elsewhere. But it is not anything to do with Judaism. You're absolutely right in that, and I share your clarification. The fact of the matter is that we know from news reporting that there has been massive protests in Israel over the past few months, condemning Netanyahu, calling for him to end the violence, calling for him to make a peace deal in Gaza in order to bring back the hostages and to end the fighting. But the fact is that now he's entered into Lebanon, the attacks that have been carried out on Hezbollah and the conflict with Hezbollah has actually raised him in the opinion polls in Israel. So it's like a strategy. He's realized that Gaza is costing him a lot, his reputation. He's under a lot of political pressure. He's a lot of international pressure as well. He's worried about his future, his well-being. Will there be legal or political repercussions for him after all of this dies down? So now by turning to Lebanon, it's a diversionary tactic to score some easy wins for him, and to alleviate some of that pressure and to deflect attention away from the genocide and the horrific killings and crimes that he's committed in Gaza. And it seems to be paying off to a degree. But I think what's going to happen now is that Netanyahu still is under that pressure. He's still worried for his future. He's probably going to prolong and escalate and keep fighting until the results of the US presidential election. If Trump gets in, for example, he could be given not just a lot of breathing space from all of the political and international pressure, but he also might get support in escalating regionally. Trump, we know, is tough on Iran. He has attacked Iran before. He killed their top general, Qasem Soleimani, when he was last president. And he's already threatened in the campaign that he's willing to hit Iran directly if need be. So possibly Netanyahu is hoping that that situation will occur. And unfortunately, the fighting may continue to escalate until we get those results. And if Trump wins, my personal prediction is that it could make things even worse and embolden Israel even more. But the fact is, they're getting away with it. They're getting away with the genocide. I mean, there's no sanctions. There's no sanctions. Where's the action from the West? There is none. So if no one's going to punish him, why should he stop? Why should he stop? That's, I'm sure, how he's thinking.
Robert, I think it makes no difference whether Kamala Harris or Trump, wins the elections. Perhaps, I guess Netanyahu might have a slight advantage because he is, close friends with Trump. And of course, we all know they have these super, these super godlike images, and they believe that they are demigods in their own right. So be that as it may, Biden just made a comment over the past 24 hours or so that Israel has a right to protect themselves against Hezbollah terrorists. So they haven't even condemned the incursion into Lebanon. And for me, that's a green light yet again to Netanyahu to carry on his butchering and his murderous actions on innocent men, women, and children. And one more comment I'd like to make. I'm not sure if you've heard this report. It is unconfirmed at this point, but we do know there is a blackout of the press in Israel. But we heard that when Netanyahu landed back in Israel. He went on a short visit to the West. Apparently, his plane got hit and he was very badly injured. This was at Ben Gurion Airport. Have you guys picked anything up on that story?
Yes, I heard it. I don't think it's true. I think if it was, then we would probably know more about it. I think Western mainstream media probably wouldn't cover that up, at least not this long. So I suspect it's rumors. I think what has happened is that Israel has been getting regularly attacked with missiles and drones. So although it appears as if it's a one-way fight, it's not. There has been a lot of missiles thrown from Lebanon into Israel, hitting all sorts of regions. But of course, Israel has its air defenses, so many of them are taken out as they travel. Also from Yemen, there has been strikes on the capital, Tel Aviv, and several other targets in the south of Israel. And apparently some Yemeni ballistic missiles were aimed at the airport around the time, I believe, that Netanyahu was returning, if I remember correctly. There are regular updates about Israel being attacked, even from Iraq as well, and from Yemen and Lebanon, all simultaneously. So the timeline of those barrages is hard to remember. But certainly Israel is under pressure. Certainly Israel is being hit here and there. And one of the main objectives of Netanyahu's Lebanon attacks is to stop the Hezbollah barrages of missiles and drones so that displaced people inside Israel can return to the north. That objective has definitely not been achieved, because despite all of the pressure that Hezbollah is under, despite their hierarchy being decapitated in this way, they have been able to sustain regular barrages into northern Israel, at the very least, a consistent, regular attack, which means that the threat of in the north is always there. People can't return. So at the very least, even if Hezbollah doesn't have the capabilities to escalate right now, even if the Iranians don't respond directly, they can, at the very least, maintain that daily barrage into northern Israel, which stops Netanyahu achieving that main objective. And as time goes on, if that remains to be the case and Netanyahu can't achieve that objective, it will turn into a Gaza situation where he's not got his hostages back. He's killed more hostages than he's saved. Hamas remains active and hasn't been defeated. And so again, the pressure will probably build on Netanyahu. So I think from Israel's side, they're trying to fight a hard, fast conflict, win and win quickly and win hard. But of course, from the Iranian side, they want to prolong it, fight a long drawn out conflict and avoid a decisive battle, most likely, in order to keep Netanyahu under pressure, so that although things may look bad for the Axis now, they may be on the back foot and are under pressure. But on a long, sustained period of time, can Israel maintain that pressure? It's going to be very difficult to do so.
So, Robert, you talked about the American elections and should Trump win the elections, what that would mean for Netanyahu. But let's look at the role of the rest of the international community, particularly France, playing their part in addressing the ongoing violence. What do they stand to gain or lose in this ongoing horror that is taking place in the Middle East, particularly now that it's moved from Palestine into Lebanon?
Yeah, obviously Lebanon is unique. It has a lot of outside powers involved in Lebanese politics and society. So obviously Iran is well known to have a presence in Lebanon, a pretty strong presence in Lebanon as well. But also you have France as well. France, of course, playing a role in the creation of Lebanon, quite frankly. And there are many French-speaking Lebanese as well, and the Christian communities of Lebanon are normally politically tied to Paris, as well as America. It has a presence here, of course, and other countries as well. But I think that as far as I remember from the headlines this morning, the French have sent one of their diplomats here to visit and to speak to the Lebanese government. The French have been adamant that they want an end to the fighting, But if the West is not going to pressure Israel meaningfully with sanctions.
Okay, Robert's picture has just frozen there. Let's go for an ad break whilst we try and reconnect with him. We have a few more important questions we'd like to cover with him. Robert, can you hear me? Okay, your picture froze there. Let's go for a quick ad break. Please stand by.
Fine.
Coming to you live from South Africa.
Yasin Badat Financial Advisory. Are your financial goals feeling out of reach? Yasin Badat Financial Advisory is here to turn your aspirations into achievements. Our dedicated team, armed with a history of success, is ready to guide you through the complex nature of financial and investment planning. Whether you're a seasoned investor or new to the game, our personalized solutions cater to your unique goals and risk appetite. Trust in our commitment to transparency, integrity, and excellence. Ready to unlock a world of financial freedom? Partner with us today. Call Yasin Badat Financial Advisory at +2733 346 2071 or visit www.yasinbadat.com. Yasin Badat Financial Advisory, guiding you to financial success.
Send food and send kindness to those who have lost their homes and have been plunged into poverty. For those who are a meal away from starvation, a food parcel means an entire family can eat this Ramadan. That's the power of food. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
You South African, of course. You anxious about the future. We've got you covered. Build on your wealth portfolio with Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange. Visit us at 151 Stephen Dlamini Road, Musgrave, Durban, or call us on 031-202-4700 for more information. Randry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange, your passport to gold investment.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041-583-6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Our brothers and sisters in Palestine are enduring unimaginable hardships. Ashraful Aid teams are on the ground delivering crucial aid to those in need. But we can't do it alone. Palestine is suffering and they need your help. Your support can make a world of difference. Visit www.ashrafulaid.org today and donate to bring hope, relief, and healing to those who are in need.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
8:47 News and Views on Salam Media. We are talking with Robert Carter. He's a journalist he's based in the UK, but in Beirut currently, covering the current situation there, the incursion by the Israelis into Lebanon. So lots still to cover, hopefully in the next 10 minutes. And I do appreciate your time, Robert. Your picture froze just now. I don't think you quite managed to give us the story regarding France and their concerns regarding the current situation.
Yes, of course. So basically, France has a pretty major role here in Lebanon simply because of the history of how Lebanon was created. France, of course, as you may remember from the Sykes-Picot Agreement after World War I, was the dividing up of the region. So obviously, It was all about Britain holding Iraq, what is now known as Iraq, and Palestine and other areas, but France got Syria and Lebanon. And so Lebanon was therefore created as a Christian enclave, and ever since France has played a role here. There are many French-speaking Lebanese, for example, as one example of the legacy of France here. So France is, using its diplomatic means in order to push its agenda. It's calling for a ceasefire. It's calling for an end to the violence. And it's actually sent its diplomats here as well to speak with the Lebanese government. But of course, if Israel is going to face no meaningful consequences for its actions, why should it stop? I think that the US is supposed to be the biggest global power. And Joe Biden, the current president, seems incompetent, incapable, and quite frankly, uninterested in getting involved too directly to stop Israel, to rein its dog in, so to speak. So Israel is getting away with it, perhaps because Joe Biden is a little bit senile. That feels that gives Netanyahu the impression, well, there's an old man sleeping at the helm. I can get away and do whatever I want. I can be as bad or as indiscriminate in my killing as I want, and no one does. Joe Biden even know where he is? Does he even want to come back from his holidays and do any work anymore? So right now, I think the Israeli regime is emboldened. It has been emboldened by its gambit in Lebanon. It seems to be paying off by taking out some pretty senior leadership of the Hezbollah group, and that it faces no sanctions, no consequences. So France can talk all it wants, but ultimately, if it's not going to do anything meaningful, then on the ground level, Lebanese are just not seeing any serious action from France or anyone else from the Western side.
And clearly, as far as sanctions are concerned, it hasn't happened up to now, almost a year into the genocide. 7th of October is just literally 8 days away. Nothing's happened on that front. So clearly, the Western world is totally disinterested in the welfare of the Palestinian and now the Lebanese people. From your reporting, Robert, and I know you're following this story, as are all international journalists, how do you believe the local communities are coping with this ongoing violence? Undoubtedly, the people that were living on the border has suffered deep, deep psychological trauma, and now this is what they faced with. How do you believe they are coping?
They're doing the best that they can, obviously. If you're really lucky, you have family somewhere else in a safer part of the country. So people from the south have fled to family in the east or elsewhere. Obviously, many people have fled here to Beirut, where they thought would be safer. But unfortunately, there are many people who don't have family in safe parts of the country or family that can help them. So they're sleeping rough on the streets. If you're lucky as well, the government will put you up in a school, for example. All schools across the country have been shut down. No one's receiving an education. They're being used as displacement shelters. Imagine the West is outraged at the fact that females are not being educated in Afghanistan, but they're not particularly outraged at the fact that no one, girls or boys, are being educated in Lebanon right now. Wonder why. Perhaps that's because they're partly responsible via their satellite project Israel, which is destroying this country. So yeah, that's an interesting point to mention. But ultimately, people are struggling. I've met some displaced peoples. Women, I think, are really struggling. There was a pregnant woman who gave birth just before being forced to flee from her home in the south. She fled north to Mount Lebanon. She had just given birth. It was a C-section birth. She was struggling with her wound, which was still recovering from the procedure, and it had become infected because of the journey. She was forced to share a room with 15 family members because there was no space in the school she was set up. Her child, who was days old only, was sick because he had been exposed to the elements and also to other people who were also sick. So the spread of disease and illnesses is a real problem now, and it's going to get worse. We're witnessing the early stages of what could become a humongous catastrophic humanitarian crisis here. The Israelis haven't invaded yet. They're focusing their attacks mostly on Shia areas, Shia infrastructure, Hezbollah infrastructure, and already it's costing casualties and causing mass displacement. If things escalate and there is a all-out war, if it becomes a regional war, if Israel begins to attack Lebanese general civilian infrastructure like the airport and elsewhere, this will become a humongous, catastrophic humanitarian crisis. It already is. So we're seeing the early stages of that, and it's getting worse every single day as more and more people flee areas which are being struck. Israel's targeting new areas all the time. There seems to be no limit, and they're willing to target areas even if it's full of civilians. They have no issue with that at all, no moral debate over that at all. They're willing to do whatever it takes to kill as many people as it takes in order to achieve their selfish aims, which is ultimately the conquest of the region. There's actually been, interestingly, some articles and comments going viral from inside Israel itself. Israeli journalists, Israeli figures like rabbis, Zionist rabbis, they are talking about the concept of Greater Israel. And Greater Israel, from the understanding of many in Israel, includes all of Lebanon, as should be part of this Greater Israel concept that some genuinely believe in. These are the same type of people who want to demolish the Al-Aqsa Masjid and rebuild their temple. These are the same people that want to eradicate everyone in Gaza and settle there and make that part of Israel. They want to make the West Bank part of Israel and creating illegal settlements there. They want to go even further than that, but it's step by step. So, you know, there are some very monstrous people in Israel that want very monstrous things, and it involves massacre, genocide, stealing land, and butchering people. And unfortunately, those people could even be influential enough to be affecting how the government in Tel Aviv runs its affairs, including how it conducts this war. Netanyahu's regime has been described as the most right-wing government ever in Israeli history, and that's because he has lunatics and crazies in government ranks.
Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you under very, very horrendous circumstances. And as you speak, what comes to mind is these are supposedly God's chosen people. That's what they go around preaching. And all I say is that our God, your God, and my God, and the God of the rest of humanity is a God of love and a God that doesn't prescribe inhumane behavior, you know, from one human being or one sect of people to another. So I kind of wonder just who is their God. But that's where we're going to leave it. I'm sure we're going to be talking lots more in the coming days. I thank you indeed, and please do take care, stay safe. We do know that journalists in that region are really soft targets. So do try and be as safe as you possibly can. Allah be with you, inshallah. And thank you so very much for your deep insights on what's happening on the ground in Lebanon. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much.
That was Robert Carter. He is a journalist with 5 Pillars in the UK, currently in Beirut, covering the massacres that is going on in that part of the world. It's shifted from Palestine going into Lebanon now. And of course, as Robert has indicated, there is a master plan as far as the Zionists are concerned. Yep, that's, gosh, it just leaves you absolutely flabbergasted, does it not? And you kind of wonder, what next? Okay, 8:57 news and views are moving along, and we are ready now for our next interview.